The HVAC industry is a big, scary place. There's all kinds of things going on, and I wanted to show you behind the scenes a little bit. We went on a really cool trip a year ago. When I say we, I mean Haley and I. Haley's our production manager. She does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for our YouTube channel. She and I went to Washington, D.C., and we toured the Daikin facility there. We were like a block away from the White House, and I'll put a link to that video down in the description of this one. While we were there, though, we did some other cool things. Like I got to meet some of the local contractors, and we talked about growing their businesses. But also in attendance, I want to show you guys, I got to meet the president of ACCA and the vice president of membership, advocacy, and events. Number one, they sat down with me, and that was really cool. They talked about some things that maybe we'll show in some future videos, but I wanted to show you guys, if you're in the trade, this channel is all about stuff for pros, and I wanted to give you just a quick synopsis of what ACCA is all about and let you hear it from the horse's mouth, let you hear it from the guys making big things happen in our industry. So let's get to that right here.
I'm Sean Robertson. I'm the VP of Membership, Advocacy, and Events at ACCA. So among other things, I'm dealing with these folks here in Washington, D.C., trying to make sure that the voice of contractors is heard in D.C., but also it's going to bat for consumers, where I think right now, there's so many regulations and incentives that are just driven towards more and more and more efficient boxes. But then consumers aren't getting what they pay for.
I'm Bart James. I talk a little slower, my Arkansas accents, but I'm President and CEO of Air Conditioning Contractors America, National Trade Association, nonprofit for heating and air conditioning contractors working to, as Sean said, make their business better and do a better job for the customer. So we've got a long 50-year plus history of writing, creating the standards, and then fighting for those and on behalf of contractors, from everything from them being essential to, making sure that tax incentives actually work towards them and recognize contractors and proper installation. It's not all about the equipment.
What's the mission for ACCA, all in all?
Man, for us, it's the improvement of contractors' lives. So for those that aren't part of kind of association world, there's truly an association for everything, including an association for associations, which we're a member of. But fascinating, and humorous as well. But so ACCA is made up, we're member-led. So my board chairman's a contractor out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he's a residential guy. The one before that's a large commercial, publicly traded. So we have 3,000 companies that do over half the work in the U.S. Unfortunately, this industry is plagued with a lot of opportunity challenges. We have 17 states where there's not a license to be a contractor. There's a license in every freaking state to cut hair, but there's not to be an HVAC contractor. The people that are on the front lines of working on the equipment that impacts all of our lives, and we don't have a license. And many of the states that have it, it's a freaking tax. It's just something else. So, as small business owners, everyone's trying to put more and more on contractors of how to, pay for all the expenses of our country. And so, anyway, there's lots of challenges and opportunities on that. And then you've got states like California that, they are oftentimes kind of cutting edge on wanting to adopt stuff of energy efficiency, but they forget about making sure it actually, meets and does something for the consumer. So they have a less than 90% compliance rate of making sure the installations are done the way they say through permitting and all. So it's a fascinating industry to work in, pretty unregulated. So it makes knowledge as a consumer, it makes knowing and have a relationship with a contractor, and way before you have that breakdown, very important.
Of course, there are things that contractors aren't going to be able to watch what's going on in Washington, D.C. every day. ACCA is here looking out for you in D.C., also back in the States, and even things that contractors may not even realize are potentially threatening their business. And I think a lot of that's going on right now related to the transition of refrigerants. Right now we're transitioning from R410A down to A2L refrigerants that are mildly flammable, and it takes a whole new generation of equipment, different regulations on the cylinders, and now there are even conversations of moving to a whole different generation of A3 refrigerants that are highly flammable. And in fact, I think regulations put in place in New York now would start that transition in 2030. when most manufacturers aren't even ready for that, and there's a whole lot of questions about how to keep people safe in their homes and businesses with the equipment.
So if a contractor is looking at potentially becoming a member of ACCA, what's the bird's eye view of what they would get out of becoming it, other than being a part of the folks that are actually setting the standards for everyone?
There's a seat at the table for them. So our 3,000 members, I mentioned, there's a place for all of them. I mean, our society, everyone's time's getting, more and more demanded in different directions, and kind of volunteerism's at an all-time low. So we need people that want to raise their arm and help out and bring their expertise to the table and help us. The standards that you and Sean were talking about of the manuals and all that people follow, those require constant updating, and it's done through on the ground kind of perspectives and through the help of manufacturers. Of technology is changing, so that stuff's not a stagnant place. It happens. So, but it's as easy as just calling or hopping on our website, which is just acca.org. Same place that the customer is going to find that locator, but from there I would highly recommend the value of interaction, of coming to an event, of hopping on our forum. It's got over 11,000 contractors and members of their team that are interacting with each other, sharing challenges and talking through stuff and learning from each other. I think the peer-to-peer, and then we've got some amazing experts in-house that can help you, whether it's a challenge you're dealing with on interpreting how codes are working or what's happening there on the code front, to our technical side. Then we actually have trainers that go out and will train you either at your shop or virtually, and all that happens at our conference. And we've got amazing strategic partners that we have kind of been blessed by our members, so that you're not the guinea pig for someone else, and you're working with someone else you can learn from and see how that software or how that financing option of how it's working for them. Then we take that to a whole nother level of pairing you together with other like-sized contractors in non-competing areas, and our management information exchange program, our mixed group, which I think is super powerful.
Contractor membership is for your entire company. So every member of your team has access to all the training resources available through ACCA, and there's truly everything from in-person trainings, live, virtual, on-demand, included video content, templates, and on both business topics and technical topics. And so there's a wealth of tools. I mean, pretty much if you can imagine it, odds are, whether it's your HR person, your training person, one of your technicians in the field, ACCA has benefits that help them.
So that's it. Thank you to Sean and Bart for taking a moment to catch up with us. I hope to do more videos showing you guys some behind the scenes stuff that you don't get to see elsewhere. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, I think you'll like this one even more. It's where I talk about when I had a business coach for my HVAC business and what I thought about it. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button for more HVAC tips. We'll see you next time.